like the movie?
Oh.
Nope. Help people with people pleasing and that kind of shit. Okay, let me see if we come up.
It should be
We're up. Nope. We're up.
Are we?
Yep, because I just shared it to my page. So we I'm gonna share it in our group too. People with people pleasing and that kind of shit. Okay, let me see if we come up.
It should be
We're up. Nope.
We are.
Okay.
I see.
All right, I shared it to the group. Okie dokie. We're up. Nope. Turn that down.
We are.
Okay.
I see.
All right, I shared it to the group.
Awesome.
Okie dokie.
Hello, everyone.
Nope. Turn that down.
Okay. I don't even have Facebook.
All right, I shared it to the group.
Okay, where's it going? Aha, there we are.
Okay. I just clicked it off on all mine.
Zoom aspect.
Yeah, because girl, you be having feedback for days and stuff and don't even know why. So welcome to Ebony and Ivory with Tammy and Megan Marie. We're having a good time. We're going to talk a little bit about spiritual growth. Today's topic is
your brain and how it is a muscle and how if you snooze, you lose it. But how really a lot, we already lost it, and that's where it comes on to the spiritual growth. It comes into that, everyone hears about that spiritual awakening, and really there's so many misconceptions as to what like a spiritual awakening, how it is and what it does to you. And the reality is it's a nightmare. I mean, if you really think of it, it is. A lot of people think it's the kumbaya aspect, and it's not, because when you start having that realization that you've been sleepwalking, you've been sleepwalking like for how many years, you come to realize like you really haven't been using your brain. Your brain, it's a muscle. You've just been letting life take you, wherever you want to go. You don't know anything about, you might have faith and you might, be in a religion type aspect, but, the truth of the reality of how your life has actually been going and things that you've been allowing and different types of abuse, different traumas, all of that stuff all kind of just comes forefront. It's right. Just like your spirit, your soul has just like had enough. And it is just like, it just pushes you out in front of the train.
Yes.
Like, hello, we're here.
Or pushes you into the deep end of the damn pool.
Yeah.
Sink or swim.
Yeah. Well, like me, I wanted to crawl into a cave. Like when I started to go into mine, I just wanted to crawl into a cave. I wanted the biggest, darkest, deepest hole. And I just did not want to come out because everything that I was seeing, everything that was going on, it was scary as hell. And it was like, how did I let this happen? Like how like, who am I, first of all, because I have no clue like who I am at all anymore, and you have to backtrack. But the reality is we haven't used our brains.
I'm not even lying to you. When I was going through mine, and one thing I want to note too is that it's deeply personal. So everybody doesn't go through the same thing. But for me, I was there and I was like, I kept singing this song because, I love to sing. Kept singing, how did you get here? You're not supposed to be here. That was what I sang a lot because that's how I felt.
I had a theme song kind of, but it was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, like that was my
talking about the ukulele version.
It's not ringing. No, mine's just Oz.
Oh, I was gonna say I was thinking about that Hawaiian guy. He plays the thing.
Oh,
you know talking about?
Yeah.
That's what I think about.
Mine was the Wizard of Oz. Like mine, like the Yellow Brick Road. It was seriously like that was like the Wizard of Oz just popped into my head so much. And honestly, it's been healing The Wizard of
Yes.
Oz actually has been very healing. And, if you really take back, and we go back all the time about Disney, about how like just amazing, but that is actually what spiritual awakening is like. And it actually deals fully with the narcissist aspect, with the whole, the evil witch. The monkeys are the narcissists. That's their whole campaign. They're, working together. I mean, it's all, that is all about a spiritual healing journey, and finding the good witch, and then finding the rainbow somewhere over the rainbow. You find out
finding out you had a brain already, and you had a heart, and
you had a heart, you had compassion, you had all that. And that movie is really about a spiritual awakening.
it really I never thought about it that way, but just when you mentioning it, it's like, yeah, it is.
It is. And it's about
like,
that.
oh my God, it's like it's about finding what is already inside of you.
It is. And there's no place like home. And where does she end up back? By clicking her, and I'll tell
Kansas, poor thing.
Yeah. Like I click my heels all the time. But but that's also a reminder of my present moment, because I am home, because home is where the heart is, and home is right here. Nothing else actually really matters to the big picture scheme of things. It's people, the things that necessarily can't be replaced. But
Right.
we don't use our brains, and they're a muscle, and it's so important, and especially like for any of you like health gurus out there, like, what are you doing for your mental health? It's the same thing as a muscle. Of like, when you're working out your abs, you're working out your legs, you're working out your arm. What are you doing to work out your brain? What are you feeding your brain? And there is different nutrients and different things like that are for mind and body that you can do. There's certain supplements, like we've talked about that last week, supplements that can help improve that. But it's also your thoughts. Your thoughts are what feed your brain. So
right. So examine definitely, what am I thinking?
What are you thinking?
What are you focusing on? What's that word? What are you perseverating on?
Yeah.
What is it that you're just holding so tight that you can't let it go?
Yes. And we have to. And what is that doing for your brain? Like how causing contractions? How is it that pains? Do you have a lot of headaches? Well, are you an overthinker? Are you constantly running the same thoughts and giving yourself that headache, that, just constant pain, because you're not letting go?
Right.
We have to learn it, and we have to learn how to control our thoughts. And I think that's another misconception a lot when you get into that healing journey, is that like, it just like, oh, you're just, so positive, like you never have a negative thought. And that's bullshit.
Bullshit.
We have negative thoughts, do not get me wrong, like, but the difference is now we've learned how to train our brains to stop it. That negative thought, negative situation. Everyone has situations. Everyone has something that is going to upset you during the day. But do you allow it to go fully into your brain? And do you allow it to manifest? Do you allow it to be fed? Do you allow it to be fed with emotions? Do you allow it to be fed with the feelings? Do you allow that? Or does that negative thought come into your mind and you're like, okay, and turn it into a positive?
Yes.
That's what we have to be training our brain to do. That's what we have to do, because that is how you then, you start to regulate your nervous system. I always wonder, like, how does a spiritual journey, a spiritual healing go to your mental health? Well, that's why, because we're energy. We're this energy. And so what are we focusing that energy on? How do we, and if people ever follow Dolores Cannon, when she sits there and she talks about the manipulation of energy, that's, a lot of times you can't understand exactly what she's talking about, because she goes off a lot of these analogies that doesn't really make sense. But that's actually what she's trying to get to.
I have to watch her 2 or 3 times. What the fuck she's talking about?
I was the same way until it was kind of like when she kept talking about, you have to learn how to manipulate energy. And it was,
but we do that already anyway. We do it. We just don't manipulate it in the right way.
Right.
Think about it, because whatever you're doing, you're manipulating energy. Even with the negative shit, that's energy.
But you have to learn how to.
You have to learn how to shift it really.
Into your right. Don't do that. But and when you come into that spiritual journey, you come into that spiritual awakening, you're naive. You're a baby. You know, it doesn't matter whether or not you're 38, doesn't matter if you're 45, doesn't matter if you're 54, doesn't matter if you're 60 or you're 70, you're still a baby because you've never trained yourself how to do it. That's where it's like, you know, like age doesn't matter. Then you can go through.
And nothing but a number. That's what they say.
It's just a number. You know, and how you feel about that number also matters too. You know, do you feel old? You know, I don't feel my age. Like, you know, I have like all these friends who are like, you know, same age. I'm 42, and they're like, oh, I'm old. I'm old. And I'm like, what do you mean you're old? Like, you're not.
They hadn't talked to me. I mean, like, no, you're not.
They'll be like, oh,
and I'm not old. I don't even feel old.
You know, they get up and they're like, oh, my body aches and stuff like that. They're like, you don't have, I'm like, no, I don't have any of that. I was like, let me ask you something. If you're old, like, how long do you like plan on being around? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, if you're old, you know, like when I think of old people, like, I mean, I think of like people who, you know, they could be
95, 100. You know? That's what I think about.
Yeah. And I'm like, how much longer do you plan on like being here? Like, I mean, do you already think you're halfway there?
You know, I feel like I got at least another 50 years, you know, I'm good.
60, 70 years, you know, I put that out there in the universe. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
No plan.
No, I'm, you know, to me, it's like when I decide I'm ready to go, I'm going to go. Otherwise, you know, I'm going to be here.
And I believe that we do manifest that. And I do think that we have that, you know, capability. We can manifest.
Well, so my great grandmother did that. She decided to die because my grandfather was sick, her son, and he had cancer. And so he was dying. And so she decided that she had always said she wasn't going to bury none of her children. Her husband had already passed away. So she was like 91, I think. And she just stopped eating and decided to die. She went, you know, they took her to the hospital, couldn't really find anything wrong with her, but she just stopped eating and then she died.
I think my grandmother, she fought death for years. I mean, years. I mean, she would even like, I think that woman probably received the last rites. She should probably go down to Guinness Books World Records for receiving it. And she would come back and she would say that my grandfather was like, it's your time, come on. And she'd be like, nope, she ain't coming. I ain't ready. And she didn't die. I mean, the first time she almost died, I was like 13. And she didn't pass away until I was 21.
Oh, wow. She said, hell no, I ain't going.
I wasn't ready. And I do think we have that, but it's a train, you know, and it's like that muscle. But, you know, people.
Well, and the other part is you got to know that.
Right.
You have to know it. Because if you don't know it, you can't use it.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't, you know, because people say, oh, well, if I don't believe it, it doesn't exist. I said, that's bullshit.
They believe in fear, but yet you can't see that either.
Can't see it. You know, I'm like, that don't even sound right. That ain't right.
I love that saying, you know, fear and faith both take faith in the unseen. Which one do you feed yourself? What
exactly.
Do you, and, you know, and that goes into positive and negative thoughts as well. What are you feeding your mind, and how are you stopping that? And it does take a lot, you know, especially like if you are constantly like waiting for the other shoe to fall off. And that's the thoughts that you're building in your brain. Guess what's going to happen? The other
shoe's going to fall off. It's like rainy day stuff.
Right.
You know, if you plan for one, then you're going to have one.
Right. But you know
what, oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I want you to share about the embodying technique that you do, because I think that would help people.
Okay. So there is an embodiment exercise that I do every morning. I've been doing this for probably like 8 months. But so you pick a song that really kind of resonates, kind of, you know, a happy song, a song that kind of just really kind of moves you in a way. My song is I'm Yours by Jason Mraz. That if you know, and if you really listen to the words, it's really about a spiritual journey. It's about surrendering. It's about being open. It's about letting go. And that song came to me months ago, and like I really listened to the words, and that is like my theme song. I just love that song. But so I listen to it every morning, and you set an intention. And for me, you know, kind of being a little advanced, my intention is kind of just to allow the divine energy to flow through me, show me, allow everything to flow through me. And that's really kind of my intention. It's a general intention that I kind of set, but you get down on your
that's kind of mine too. Mine is like allow me to be a divine channel.
Yeah, allow me, just flow through me, use me. You know, that's,
Mhm.
I ask the universe to use me in a positive way. um, in a positive way. But you get down on
That's important.
all your hands and knees like a dog, and you turn on the music, and then you just allow your body to move. Just move however it is. And, you know, like when I first started this exercise, like I really moved my like hips a lot. Like there was so much like tension really, you know, in like my hips, and it would kind of expand like every day. There was kind of like a new area, like my arms would hurt, you know, my chest would hurt. I would feel tightening. And so it was just like, you know, you're just like moving, you know, to kind of like wherever. And, you know, and sometimes like I would go down into like a yoga pose and I would hold it. It was just whatever, like I really felt, because it's an embodiment exercise. So you're feeling your body. Is what does your body need? So you listen to the song, and then you lay down on your back for 5 minutes, close your eyes, and just focus on the energy. Focus on where you feel what in your body, where you don't feel anything, because what it also does is that helps you recognize your chakras. Where are you feeling tension? Where are you not feeling tension? Where's no energy flowing? You know, and like where I am now, it's like I just feel the energy all over, because I'm in the mindset and I'm in the awareness that I am whole, I am one. So, you know,
Yes.
it's the energy, just I feel complete, I feel completely whole. But it took me a long time I worked up with that, but I would feel, you know, like my root chakra, I would feel like a lot of energy, you know, in my tailbone area, or, you know, like your sacral, you'll feel all of that. And then you go and you journal, go and recognize, and you'll see a pattern of like where the energies are moving, what chakras need attention. You'll start to see that in reading your journals and stuff, but it's an embodiment exercise, and it's to get you out of your mind. And I will say that when I first started the exercise, like I just kind of like thought more about like the energy, like where did I want the energy to be? Like, where did I want this to be? And I do think I put a lot of that focus there, but I put the energy there. That was kind of like me communicating of like, I want to feel it here, because I had forgotten what that felt like. Like I forgot what my heartbeat, you know, felt like. I forgot what.
Well,
that
we don't typically, you know, think about that.
No,
Because it's not like you have to make sure that it's going to beat. I mean, it's automatic, but
right.
you know, but we don't typically, you know, feel, because, you know, we talked about this before. People rather fight than feel.
But we're also so busy. We're so busy in our
That's
mind
the other thing.
running. Our brains are not trained. Our brains
Mm-mm.
are just running wild. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've been dying laughing. You remember those old drug commercials
Mm-hmm.
where they show the egg, and then they'd be like, they smash the egg and be like, "This is your
Your
brain on,
brain on drugs. Yeah.
this your
Mm-hmm.
brain on trauma." You know, they should have really turned that around
Well,
back
if you think about it, why do people do drugs?
to escape.
Right.
Or numbing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they would have gone more on that mental health aspect with that type of commercial, you probably would have got a better response from it. Instead, it just became a joke.
They didn't care.
No, it was
You know,
actually,
they don't really want people to heal anyway.
well, but if you really think of how psychology works, it's, you know, it's that reverse psychology aspect. They're putting the word drugs,
Yeah.
you know, in your head. But if
Mm-hmm.
they would have put healing, they would have fed, you know, your mind with that. But if you do think about that, that's like what an untrained mind looks like. An
Yeah.
untrained mind, it's just wild, you know, the squiggly lines, you know, just constantly going, because you can't focus, you know,
Now you make me hungry.
but you know, like the spider web, every ask, you know, things like that. Yes, spider webs, you know, they are symmetrical, and
Oh my God, they're so beautiful though. Have you like looked at one? I mean, the intricate designs. I just one day I seen one like on my, you know, thing, whatever. And so I looked at it, and it was so intricately designed. I was trying to take a picture of it, but my camera wouldn't get a good picture. But it
I
was so beautiful.
one that's really cool. It was from a few years ago up in my best friend's house. We walked out on the deck, and no lie, this thing was literally like 6 feet wide.
Oh
And
my God.
this thing was huge, and it was made overnight, because we'd been out on that porch all the night before, and it wasn't there, walking all past, you know, everything like that. And
Yeah.
that morning going out, and here is this massive spider. Like we were like like no one was allowed to break it, because it was actually that cool, because it was
I
just
can imagine.
Like, yeah, huge, massive. But, but how does the spider web first start? It starts all, they got to go and they got to pull it. And that's the same aspect of our brain. All these wild thoughts that you just have, just going. Wow, you have to learn how to train them.
Because think about how you start meditating. When you first start meditating, and even sometimes, I have that sometimes now. Your brain is your mind is just focusing, going on all kinds of other things instead of being able to, quiet it down and chill it out, or this is the thing, allow the thoughts to go past. Yeah. Don't grab them and don't focus on them. But what we do, we grab them and focus on them. You're sitting in meditation and you're thinking about what the hell you're gonna cook for dinner, or some shit that happened on your job, or all kinds of stuff. And so that's another thing. It's like when you start to meditate, and you have all these things coming in, and people are so good at saying this, oh, well, you got to just shut your mind off. Well, how the fuck are you gonna do that?
Yeah, train it.
The thing is you can't shut it off. You just let the damn thoughts go by. Let them go by. Just let them go by.
That's releasing, and there's a lot of simple things of people don't like the release and the let go. It's like, okay, acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
Go. And it took me a year. It took me I got so frustrated and I almost gave up on meditating.
That was good, because it took me longer. A year was good.
But it did. And but that goes again though with the misconceptions of a spiritual journey and people. Some people, they can instantly do it, but we have
there ain't very many people like that.
Not used to doing. If it's something you're starting, just like any new subject, any new school, you don't know it instantly, but we live in such an instant gratification society that we think that,
10K in a month.
Yeah. Yes, but that's the truth of it. And so many people just give up because perfectionism. We think that, oh my God, because we didn't do it,
or you think it's going to happen overnight, because that's what people tell you. You listen to that shit. You're like,
were you built overnight?
No, hell, we were. I was in there about a little bit less than 9 months, but my kids actually were 9.5 damn months, because their asses were 13 days late.
Well, if you really think about it, pregnancy is 10 months. I don't know why they say it's 40 weeks.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, you could be like an elephant.
Yeah, 2 years.
Right. And you think about it, there's different gestation periods for different creatures.
And that's also in manifesting, there's that, but we have to allow ourselves to give ourselves time to realize that you are learning something new. You are learning something new, and that goes into training. And
then you got to embody it. That's the other part.
Do what?
You got to embody it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is we learn stuff all the time, but if we don't embody it and begin to engage with it, that's the thing, because people are like, oh, well, I took this class and I took that class and I took that class, but did you work with it?
Did you apply it?
Did you apply it? Did you do anything, with that stuff that you learned, or did you just learn it?
Right. And so many people do that. They think it's knowledge, but that's not wisdom. And you want the knowledge and the wisdom. And so, I made a post and it was kind of interesting. I didn't really comment back because I just kind of wanted to see kind of people's mindsets. Like, do you want to be the student, the teacher, or the master?
Oh, I don't think I saw it. Did I see it? Did I comment?
I don't think you actually did.
I don't think I saw it, because I haven't been on there that much.
Yeah.
I literally have come on, post a thing and then, try to comment on some people's stuff, and then get, go do some other stuff, because, I'm trying to get out of the time suck with that shit.
It was interesting hearing everyone's comments.
Well, what did people say mostly?
Mostly everyone was the student.
Okay.
Everyone wanted to be the student. I honestly think there was only one person who was like, I want to be the master.
Okay. So why do you think that is? You think it's because they don't feel they can be the master, or what do you think?
A couple people actually did respond back that they didn't want to be the master because God was only the master. Like they did go there, that they didn't feel that they could be the master of anything. And so it was really kind of interesting, because I couldn't tell with some of the posts if it was kind of like the politically correct answer, or if someone was really kind of feeling from their heart, because I think it's like to me, and I kind of really wanted to see like someone be like, oh, I want to be all, you know, because that's me.
And that's what I would have said. That's why I said, I don't know. I didn't see that post.
I mean, I want to be
like, I am all.
Right. I want to be all, but it's not like a master of an arrogance. And I think that's where a lot of people were avoiding the master,
right,
is because of that ego aspect.
But I think of it in terms of like Reiki master.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm a Reiki master, but yeah.
But I can't be the master on everything, nor do I want to, because if you are the master, then you can't grow. If you
I was going to say, you can't learn nothing.
Yeah,
you're one of those people that say, you say something to them and they say, oh, I know.
Yeah.
And you're like, if you knew, I wouldn't be telling you.
Well, but that shows they're not teachable. You know,
exactly.
Not teachable. And, you know, and I think in a point of life, we need to be teachable. We need to be the student. We need to be the teacher of that. We learned the lessons and that we can then go on and teach other people. But then we do have to pick something of that we are the master, because then the masters are the ones who really share. And that is kind of where you get the respect within your community of what it is that you are learning. And that's how you draw more pupils to be able to expand and grow out a tree. But you have to train your mind. And so many people don't, I think, realize that, you know, we take our minds for granted.
Right.
But, you know, I had a really interesting, actually, I pissed a guy off the other day. I met a really awesome scientist.
Wow.
He is actually doing it is phenomenal work when it comes to Alzheimer's.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's
needful.
Yeah, it's a new drug that's actually going to be getting ready to come out on the market here soon, that he's just got like FDA approval and stuff like that. So him and I were like,
to let me know, because I have a friend that, you know, is dealing with that.
Oh, I have his contact information. I'll give it to you. Okay. But they were talking about how that this medicine, and this this is where I started to make him mad, because all the testing's being done on rats. Well, we're not rats, you know, so in our, you know, our whole makeup is not the same. And like, you know, I think that's like, also,
but it's very similar to us though.
It is, and it's not. And, you know, if you look at a lot of the old psychology of like how they still,
you can't test it on people. Hopefully not.
Yeah, but there's other aspects onto it. But so like this medicine is like removing the plaque that is showing up in Alzheimer's.
Well, in the brain. Yeah.
I brought up, well, what about the movement? I mean, because like if you look at like the neurons and stuff like that, of like the new knowledge is not being learned. Like if you look at maybe a person's life, like before the Alzheimer's starts setting, where were they? Were they a couch potato? Were they just sitting there watching TV all day? Were they, you know, not taking in any new information? Were they not a student? Were they not learning anything? And so basically the protons and the neurons started dying in the brain, which started creating the plaque. Well, what happens like if we started taking those people and we started making them learn? What if we put them in school? What if we started refiring those neurons and those proteins? Would that also eliminate the plaque without creating, I mean, would that kill off the plaque? And he got
What
mad.
did he say? He got mad?
He got mad.
Why?
It felt like I was crediting his drug onto it.
I was going to say that sound like a valid question. I thought
it was, but it wasn't to what he was trying to prove a point. His is pushing the medication, and I'm a holistic where I'm not pushing the medication. I'm like, how can we retrain a person? How can we do it? And so like he shut me down completely on. He wouldn't even carry on the conversation with me anymore about it. And I was like, fine, you know, whatever. Obviously, I triggered him.
Obviously, you did. He probably could use a session.
Probably could use a session. Yeah. Oh, his face got and everything. I
was gonna say he could probably use a session. You know, get him some help.
But we have to look at that of, you know, and where you are in your life right now. Like, are you mundane? Have you trained your brain just to focus on a TV? Have you focused your brain just focus on your phone? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, my mom would say, you don't need to be just doing that boob tube.
Yeah. But the video games, all of that, you know, there are studies that show that, and
even being too much on these apps,
social media.
that's what I said. That's what I was telling you. That's why I said I have gotten to a place now where I shut that shit down at night, turn that phone over. I'm not even, I'm not responding to anything. I'm not looking at anything, unless I wake up in the middle of the night like I did the other night. And I message you because I knew you were up.
Routine. Like I don't do my phone in the morning. I do.
Me either.
Well, I do just because. So like I do have my vision. Yes, I do. Like, and this is also training your brain. Like people remember vision boards. And I do have vision boards. But I also have.
I used to, but I haven't done one lately because, to be honest, nothing ever happened on my board. So I was like, maybe that's not for me.
Mine actually did. And it was my ex-husband who hated my vision boards and actually made me take down my vision boards and was like, that was dumb and stupid. And because it made him so uncomfortable, I took them down and I stopped using them and I stopped doing them. And now, like I have my walls, like I have like a whole like thing of like vacation spots, different things, different things I want to do. Yeah, I have my vision board, but I also have a vision video. And so I have a vision video, which is basically things that I want to happen in my life. My goals, and it's, to my favorite song. It's me speaking, and it's with a whole bunch of photos of different things. And I listen to that for 20 minutes every morning, just on repeat, just over and over.
You can do that for other people.
I did not make it. It was made for me.
But you could do it for other people.
I don't know how to do that. I could so I
say YouTube University. Sean, what you talking about?
I don't like. I'm a hands-on learner. I'm not a great like watch a video and then like learn. I need
but what you do is you watch the video. You watch the video on your computer and you make the shit on your phone.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk, people. Because I think it's powerful. And
it is.
But that's the first thing that I do every morning because I'm training my brain. I'm training my brain. I'm feeding because, again, everyone is so concerned about law of attraction. But
there's so many other laws.
There's so many other laws, but no one even pays attention or applies what the law of attraction is. There's quite a few different ways that it can be explained. But again, it's training your brain. You have to train your brain. And that's the feeling aspect. Like, okay, great. You came up with a thought,
Now what?
What do you do with that thought? I put it out there. Okay, well, how's the thought coming back to you? You just put it out there. You just let the world take it. Well, that's what happens. And then you get mad because nothing happened. You're manifesting it. That's bullshit.
That don't work. I'm not doing that no more.
Right. But the fact of the matter is okay, great. You got creative. You came up with what it was that you wanted. You at least spent some time. But now, did you feel it? Did you feel that? Did you actually get excited about it? Because see, that's what people realize is the frequency. The universe does not speak words. The universe does not hear, I don't, or I want, I want. It really doesn't. Yeah, you put it out there, but it's that feeling. Like, how do you feel about that? How do you embrace that? Does it make you all happy? Does it give you those butterflies? Does it make goosebumps? Do
you get the chills?
You get the chills.
Do you get the things in your stomach? You
giggle, like you smile. Well,
you dance.
All increasing your vibration. That's all doing that. And that is what you have to do. You have to create, you have to think, which, in us, our human minds, we have to come up with those words, but then we do have to attract that feeling. We have to put that feeling and embrace it and then put them together so that we can receive it, because that's when you put it out. And like a long time ago, I heard about the boomerang, and that's where it's like, that makes perfect sense. But that's how you call it back is the feeling, you put it out. And so you draw it back in as the boomerang of the feeling and you got to hold on to that. And then you got to
do. Because it don't always be easy.
Yeah. Like we've
Especially
talked about,
if you're in the middle of something and you are, working through that, and all of a sudden, you're like, okay, this is, and I feel that, but then some shit happens in your life and you're like, oh my God, and then you lose that feeling. You got to grab it back.
Yeah. And
you got to grab it back.
Let that manifest.
Right.
And that's another thing that people forget about is like, just because you thought of that once It's not happening. Just because you thought of that one time, oh, that would be a great idea. Oh my God, that's so mine. Okay, like people, oh, I'm gonna win the Powerball. Okay.
No. You got to do the weight loss thing in January. But it's time we lose this weight. I got to get this 100 pounds off. And January 1st, I'm starting a new diet, or I'm going to the gym every day. And they make all these unreasonable, things that they're not going to do.
No. Why? Because you really don't feel it.
No.
You have not gotten to the point of like, I really want that. And
so I was watching the 600-pound life. I was watching the 600-pound. And the lady said, the doctor was like, you need to come here, you need to move to Houston because, I'm concerned about your progress. You're not progressing wherever the hell you live and all this stuff. And she was like, I don't want to do that. I just can't do that. And so he said, I'm concerned that you're not taking this seriously.
They're not.
And you're going to have to leave the program. He said, because the thing is, I'm concerned about your health. He said, because you're so big. I think that one was about 600 pounds or something. And he was like, I'm concerned about your health. He said, because you aren't going to live long if you don't get this weight off. And it was wild because you would think that you're 500-600 pounds and you have an opportunity to get this weight up. I don't think they have to pay for it. I think TLC pays for it or whatever. And so I was like, it seems like it would be a no-brainer, right? Start working on getting the weight off so you can get your surgery and all this other kind of stuff. But she was just like dead set on, not going to Houston. And then she wasn't losing the weight. And then when she was supposed to come, because it was like so many hour drive or whatever, 6 hours or something, she said, oh, I'm not going to be able to make it and all this stuff. And so he talked to her and he was like, listen, I'm going to have to discharge you from this program. And, that is really an example of the same way that people do on this journey. They're not ready. They're not ready to undertake the journey. They just say they are. They have all this lip service. Oh yeah, I want to blah, blah, blah. And I want to da, da, da. But they don't really want to do it because if they did, they would do it.
You know what the devil's greatest elixir is?
What's that?
It's the thing he gets everyone with. That's how he controls people. It's one little drop of it right there on your third eye. Discouragement. Self-doubt. It's that you come up with all these and just like it is kind of getting annoying. You've seen a lot of posts, and if anyone's watching this, I am kind of calling you out on it because it's like, why are we doing all these posts all of a sudden? Yes, I understand the new year's coming. Oh, in 2023, why aren't we doing it now? See, you're not in the mindset. And the fact of the matter is you're not going to be in the mindset.
Well, because you already wrote off this year. Because you got one more month, and people write it off. They're like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I didn't do that good the rest of the year. So why should I even worry? Because it's Christmas time, and people have all these things. And people say this, it's Christmas time. People don't have money and blah blah blah. Yes, the fuck they do. They got money to spend on whatever they want to.
Well, and the question comes down to, you want to invest in yourself. The greatest
that's the other thing
is put into yourself. You can't give from an empty cup. So if you're constantly, giving, what are you doing?
Gonna burn out.
Yeah, I did, years ago. Again, my brain was not trained. Well, my brain was trained. My brain was trained from my dysfunctional childhood of being my parents' regulator, their emotional regulator. My brain was trained to regulate everyone else's. I never trained myself on how to regulate myself. Went through this massive spiritual awakening, and I'm like, and no one's there to save me. No one's there,
Nope, you gotta save yourself.
I did, and I'm not saying that no one was there. I did have, some support, but they weren't actually there. Like no one was there, like holding my hand. It was kind of like
none of that.
The people that really mattered were really like, bitch, you did this to yourself, and they're like, gotta get hurt yourself. And they were right though. And, and that was honestly the greatest blessing that they could have given me as to where I was, because I had to sit with myself, and that was something that I did not ever do. I was always,
well, who does? Nobody wants to do that. That's work.
Oh, yeah.
You
But
know, it's like,
that
you
discouragement.
know,
I had tons of discouragement. I had tons of those limiting beliefs. I had tons of that. My father always, you're a dumb, stupid cunt. I had all of that, so it was like, why am I even going to bother? They think I'm dumb, they tell me I'm stupid, they tell me. So, that is what I was trained to accept. That's what I was trained to feed my brain with, every single time, I would attempt to go do something, even if I was passionate about it, even if I was like really, really excited about
well,
it.
there's that little thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Well,
Yeah.
the shoe was always going to fall off.
Mm-hmm.
That's what always happened. That's what I was always expecting. So I
Mm-hmm.
would do all of this. I would do great. I would do fabulous. I would be so excited. And then guess what? What happened?
Done.
Done, because I was expecting the other shoe to fall off. So then eventually it didn't work out how I thought it was going to. Eventually it didn't do that. And so it was devastating, discouragement. Why am I going to try again? Why am I going to do that? And I had to learn how to train my brain, had to learn how to get rid of those negative thoughts. I had to learn to realize that I was feeding myself all
Right.
these negative thoughts. And it was, stuff that was inbred into me. It was stuff, it was beaten, years of abuse, years of neglect, neglect on other people and neglect of myself, because if you really think about it, I didn't think of myself as a person. I wasn't treated as a person. So why did I think of myself as a person? I had to train my brain like I'm a person,
And
like,
I matter.
yeah, like Pinocchio,
And I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm a real boy, right?
you,
Okay, so this has been an amazing conversation. We're gonna wrap it up. You like that?
like that. But that's the truth of it, and that's where it's you have to train your brain. You have to learn how to get control. You have to stop going with these wild thoughts. Now, daydreaming's great, but what do you
Love to
daydream?
do that. I love to do it.
Oh, I do.
That's one of my favorite things. I've done it for years, and it's wild too, because when I had the conversation with my mom today, she was like, you know how to just push things down. She was, you were famous for that. And I said, I already know that. I said, and that's one of those things that, I had to heal, because I did. I would just, I don't want to deal with it. I would just push the shit out. Don't worry about it. But you know what happens? It always comes back up for you to deal with. Push that stuff down, it's still there. And it always comes back up, so you can deal with it. You've got to deal with it, and it's like, okay, it's almost like, what is that show, Behind the Music?
Oh, I don't know that.
Are you serious?
I don't watch TV.
Oh my God. Anyway, it's a show that they do like about different artists and stuff, and they talk about their lives and things like that. And a lot of them went through a lot of stuff, and it's like Behind the Music. I think it was on years ago. I think it was MTV or something. But yeah, it popped up on YouTube, and so I was looking at one of the things. I was like, oh yeah, because it's, of course they're putting everything on YouTube. Yeah. And so I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. But yeah, it highlights so many things in some of these artists' life that, we didn't know about, they didn't share it. And some of them were like, they went through a lot of stuff, and a lot of them, some of them, like they did one on TLC, and they talked about how, they weren't paid.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Left Eye went in there. Left Eye went in there. It was like, y'all gonna give us our money. I loved her.
Did she burn someone's house down?
Yeah, she burned the boyfriend's house down. I love her, girl. I was like, damn, that's my girl. Too bad he wasn't in it. Anyway. But yeah, so it's like that. You got all these things behind. You're right here and you're dealing with this, but you got all this shit back here.
And you have to train, like, what are you focused on?
Yeah.
Because everything's temporary, and you're not in separation, even, in relationship aspects, if like the lacking, we have to get rid of lacking, you're never lacking. There's no such thing as separation. If you believe in energy and if you believe in vibration, we're always together. And the lacking, it creates more of it. That's what your focus is on. If you don't have the money, if you don't have the friends, if you don't have the house, you don't have the car, and you're constantly focusing, guess what? You're training your brain
No,
So
you got to do like me. I went and walked through the houses. They're amazing. I was like, let me go walk through my house.
but play, but that's a play therapy. That's actually like a real thing that's now like starting within therapy.
Yes.
Stuff like
Yes.
that, because it's showing the importance of it, because we're so uptight. We're so focused, we're focused on all the wrong stuff when we need to be focused on that state of play. And especially if you want to manifest, and you again, what tonight's about is, what are you training your brain to focus on? What are you putting that focus on? And if you don't have the life that you want to be living, guess what? There's your truth. There's your sign. There is your reality, is that you're focusing on all the negative. Everything that you don't want, you are drawing towards you. You are focusing and you are putting that attention. And so even though
that's the law of vibration is what that is.
Law of vibration. And also remember, like, if right now, if like you are sad, you are depressed, like there's just nothing that you are happy about, law of polarity, law of opposites. There is a version out there of you that is happy, successful, living the life that you want to be living, with the relationship that you want. There is a version of you. You just have to learn how to tap into your mind. You have to tap into your creativity. You have to tap into that version of you. But that version of you is happy. That version of you is ecstatic. They're on natural ecstasy every day. And you have to learn how to get onto that same vibration. So again, what are you training your brain? Are you training your brain because you're pushing that version of you away? If you're constantly negative, you're constantly sad, you're creating that separation. But if you start to build and train your brain on those positive, happy thoughts, learn how to release and let go, learn how to surrender, the whole spiritual journey of what Tammy and I kind of talk about every Wednesday night here with you guys, you will start to see the shift. You will start to see that impact. You will start to see that everything that you desire is with you.
See, and the thing is the thing people have to realize is that we have already lived this life. This is deja vu. That's why you have deja vu sometimes, because it comes to you and you see it. You're like, oh, wait, I already had this conversation.
I have it all the time. Every time.
Me too.
I get so excited. Like
what I'm saying is because you've already done it. We've already done this show. We've already done it. And the thing is, we have to realize and recognize that we have done this. And so we're living in this parallel timeline. We're living in this parallel timeline where, oh, well, this is the thing or whatever, and this is the other thing, but we're here. But it's a deja vu for us. And so once you realize it, I think you kind of get settled, and you kind of get where and you begin to know, okay, yeah, this is going to work out because it already did. It already worked out.
But I think sometimes, like before, like I started my healing journey, like before I was married, I used to have deja vu all the time. And then it did stop for a while. And then after I kicked him out and deja vu started happening. Deja vu used to freak me out because like I would sit there and be like, oh my God, I've had like, this has happened. Like, what was it? Like, I would sit there and I completely overanalyze like okay, what was I doing? Oh, what was it? And I would try to remember what was going on. And the reality is I was pushing it away. That happiness that I was wanting of that, because it scared me. What was this reminding me of? I was in all of that, negative energy. I was all in those low vibrations. And so it freaked me out until it got to this point, like, hey, okay. And I got on my spiritual journey and I started, and now it's like every single time I have a deja vu, I'm like, oh, what's next? Okay. And that's where it's like you have to change that vibration of, and just surrender.
You have to. And the thing is it's not a do it now and then don't do it again. No. I mean, it's a freaking daily journey. I mean, it's daily, because we go through different things. We go through ups and downs every single day. And you could be here 1 minute and down here the next, because that's just how we can be. But you have to get to that place where you find your balance. You find your place in the sun. It's like I like to say.
Be that light.
Be that light.
And then
Remember the light.
shut everyone else's energy off. Like I work in a draining environment. I work in, things, but it's learning, of like having that moment of release. And then like, okay, it's done. It's over. I can't control. Learning, what you can control. And guess what? The only thing you can control, you, that's all you can control. And you can't even control your kids. That's
no, unfortunately,
they're own human beings. They
and
have,
they're not just little yous either, because that's what a lot of people are trying to make their kids into little thems. No, they got their own mind. They got their own journey.
Now they're learning from you, and so
they are.
Are you learning to keep everything in? Are you learning to have emotional? Are you putting that pressure on your children? Are you doing that? Are you creating the negativity within them? Are you adding value into their life? I mean, again, as tonight's about, it's about training that brain, training and learning how to reprogram those negative thoughts into positive and to create the life that you want to be living, that is full of self-love, self-confidence, self-esteem, just amazing self. And that's another thing, like I've realized, that's everyone seeks, safety and stability. But so many people, I think, are under that's materialistic. You can't have materialistic stability and safety until you have that within. Because guess what?
That's exactly right.
Money is also a vibration. It is.
Yes, it is.
And so if you are not,
and it's vibrating high for me.
Exactly. But if you're not stable and secure and knowing who you are, again, all that money you want to manifest, everything that you are doing, guess what? You're pushing it away. You're repelling it. You're not stable. And so again, how do you do that? You have to control your mind, learn to reprogram your mind, get rid of all those negative thoughts, get rid of those negative feelings, reprogram those feelings, that those feelings do not attach to emotions, attach to your chakras, that attach to and lower your vibration. You have to learn how to become stable. That root chakra should be one of the main chakras that you focus on. If you are having any inability to control your mind, you need to focus on your roots, and you need to focus on who are you? Who are you, and how are you stable and secure in who you are, in your character, your personality, your morals, your values, your ethics? Who are you? And
with that,
that is Ebony and Ivory.
That is Ebony and Ivory. It's been amazing. It always is. So good. Thank you so much for joining us on Ebony and Ivory. Wherever you're watching this, make sure that you like it and share it and all that other good shit. And thank you for being here and supporting us. And those of you that are catching the replay, we love you.
Yeah.
Just hit hashtag replay. Let us know where you are watching from.
Yes.
And
replays, but no one comments on it. We'd love to know who you are.
Right? Yeah. And if you need to reach out to either one of us, because Megan does mental health counseling and coaching, and I do healing. So if you need to reach out to us, make sure that you do so, because our DMs are open, but we shut them down at night.
Thrive. That's kind of like the passcode. That's the key word. Thrive.
Yeah. And also, follow us on the other platforms, TikTok and
Instagram
and YouTube.
Weird.
And if somebody's on Twitter, which no,
I'm not on Twitter.
I'm on there, but I don't go there.
I'm not on Twitter.
I used to have something that Instagram used to send it to Twitter or some shit. So I would get sometimes people reaching out to me from Twitter, and I was like, what in the world? And I was like, okay, because I didn't even know my password because I never go on there. Now that they let the orange fella back, I'm definitely not trying to do that.
I never got into Twitter.
I couldn't stand it. I did it for when I wrote this book, because the girl that produced it, she asked us all to get on Twitter and all these different places. Yeah. And that was the only reason I got on it.
Never had it. So I'm good. So yeah, if you want to find me, I'm on here as Megan Marie, and then on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, I am Peace, Love, and Light Healing with Megan Marie.
And I'm Tammy Morrison everywhere you find me.
Everyone have a beautiful night. Enjoy.
Yes. And enjoy your week, the rest of your week, your weekend, or whenever you are catching this, because we know that people watch from all over the planet.
Yes. So namaste, everyone.
Namaste.